All right. Hello, everyone around the world. Great to have you join us on this beautiful Friday. My name is Larry, head of ecosystem here at Iotex, and we're really excited to have another bi-weekly ecosystem spotlight live stream where we connect the Iotex community with some of the amazing projects that are building the future on Iotex. This week, we have a special interview with Dr. Mitch Tseng of the Industry IoT Consortium, which was founded by premier members like Microsoft, GE, Dell, and Huawei. We just announced the first blockchain-based test drive for valuable asset tracking that makes use of this device right here, the Pebble Tracker, right? So we're really excited to see what everyone's going to be building with Pebble Tracker. Let's get it turned on. Mine's out of battery right now, but it's all good. Yeah, we're just really excited to showcase everything that's going on in the Iotex ecosystem up to date. We're also going to be talking to some brand new ecosystem projects that are launching soon on Iotex. We have Lunargistics, who is doing a kind of a space mission as a service. They're actually running a NFT launch right now as crowdfunding. So we'll get to talk to Diana, the CEO of Lunargistics. We have Mobify. Mobify is a mobility as a service kind of drive to earn app that's coming to Iotex. And we have the founder and CEO Yudi joining us live. And finally, we have NAOS Finance. NAOS Finance is using real world data to provide credit scoring and trust scoring, which is going to be a big pillar. On-chain reputation is going to be a big pillar of what's to come for crypto and blockchain. So there's so much stuff going on in Iotex. Last week we covered more of the ecosystem stats. It's really great to see those stats also increasing. We're seeing more TVL on Mimo, more TVL on these yield farms of ours, and just more projects coming into the Iotex network. Just this week, we announced new partnerships with Relay Chain, which is a cross-chain bridge. It's going to finally open up the first cross-chain bridge between Iotex and new networks like Avalanche, Phantom, Hecko, and Polkadot, Shiden, and Moonriver. So it's really, really exciting to have that bridge up and running. And of course, this week, we also announced our new partnership with NAOS Finance, and we're going to put those perspectives right in front of you guys. So, without further ado, I don't want to hog too much of this. We have really, really great guests joining us today. So with that, I want to bring on our first guest, Dr. Mitch Tseng from the Industry IoT Consortium. How's it going, Mitch, or Mr. Dr. Incredible? I see you have yours.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, Mitch, we've known each other for a couple of years, just interacting through the Industry IoT Consortium. First, for all the new viewers out there, do you want to give a short intro about yourself, and we can dive into more about your role within the Industry IoT Consortium?
Sure. I'm actually a self-proclaimed IoT evangelist. And then I came from the telecommunication background. I've been serving Nokia, Nortel, and those wireless network companies for some time. And then about 10 years ago, I got my passion on the IoT. So I've been trying to build based on my own experience on communication and try to link the community to get together. In IIC, I'm serving as the chair of the Marketing and Innovation Working Group, Edge Computing Task Group, and also I'm the chair of this Testbed Council. Thank you.
Awesome. So for those that are brand new, we those that have been in the Iotex network for a while know our relationship with the Industry IoT Consortium. We actually joined a few years ago after a merger with the Trusted IoT Alliance, which we were founding members of. But for those that are brand new to the IIC and the goals of these kind of enterprise bodies, do you mind sharing a little background on who the IIC is, who the members are, and what the goals of this consortium are?
Sure. Our mission is actually to try to serve the IoT community, because IIC right now is probably arguably the largest IoT consortium in the world. And then we've been focusing on multiple areas, especially like, for example, in the we call the verticals. We can be focusing on smart factory, healthcare, supply chain, energy, mining, and also automotives. And the way we do that is that we kind of try to help our community by providing the technologies to try to build out the foundations for all the IoT applications. And those are such as edge computing. Then that's one of the groups I chaired. And also we are focusing on the IoT architecture, and not to mention security, right? So you have to mention that part, because security is also very important. And under security, we also have a latest experiment on this, the trustworthiness, right, which is also a very important area. Then we have digital twin and digital transformation. And then also we have a business development. There's the latest addition, because we are kind of transforming from the proof of concept stage to also to the proof of value to help our members. And also like the group I've been working on, the innovation working group, we're actually focusing on the startups, right? So we invite people to kind of bring in the new innovative ideas, and then we'll invite them over to help them present to us. And then maybe in the process, we actually provide the coaching for them. Every quarterly meeting, we have this fast pitch. It's like this Shark Tank kind of applications. We actually, well, it would be nice that if we have investors in the field, but normally before the stage, we want to help the startup companies to kind of sharpen their pitches, right? So there was a target that we want to help them to get rich, right? And hopefully that when they get rich, they don't forget us. And also the tools that we provide is like we publish all the like framework documents, technical reports, and also we started this new tech brief, the tech brief. That's, like I said, a very short write up so that we can hit the market real quick when the company has innovative ideas. And also one of the things that we reach out to people are the test bed and the test drives. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. The test beds and the test drives are a big pillar of the IIC, right? Getting different enterprises that may be competitors in the real world, providing them a neutral sandbox, neutral test bed for them to collaborate and test out new technologies, right? And that's exactly what we're doing with Pebble Tracker. So, jumping right into some of these test drives, right? Just to explain to the community, test drives are short-term, rapid engagement pilots for technology end users to employ and adopt industrial IoT technologies. They stimulate IoT adoption across industry through accelerated implementation. And the IIC's neutral collaboration platform fosters partnering to address leading edge IoT use cases in 3 to 6 month projects based on technology and users' real problems. So a lot of great test beds and test drives already going on in the IIC. We see things related to intelligent video, IoT sensors, smart molds, supply chain networks, inertial gate analysis, and of course, the brand new one, valuable asset tracking for healthcare networks. And this one is led by Iotex and also includes some of the IIC membership to be testers for this test drive. But Mitch, maybe talk us through a little bit about how these test drives form, right? How do the test drives really seek to get results, and what are the impacts of a successful test drive?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring this up, because the test drive and the test bed are the two important tools that we reach out to the members. Because in the early days, when people are not that familiar with what IoT is, so those are kind of fundamental documents, and then the technical reports are very important for them. But now I think that after so many years, pretty much everybody knows what IoT is. So now we need to enter in a stage that we are not only talk the talk, we also need to walk the walk. And then testbed and test drive are designed for that purpose. And testbed is kind of in a larger scale. We try to prove something a little bit bigger. For example, time-sensitive networks. And when you see like the project at that scale, you will involve a lot of people, a lot of companies, members to contribute to that. But we found that typically like this testbed requires 2 to 3 years to become mature. But through the years, we found that there is a need from the industry, because through the years, we found that IoT business is actually very adaptive. Mm-hmm. Like one size fits all in many other industries will fail miserably if you use this principle in IoT. So in order to do that, we need to have a forum that's quickly that can turn the idea around to show mm-hmm. that. And then the test drive is designed for that purpose. There are 2 fundamental requirements for submitting a test drive. Number one is that you have to have a solution, a complete solution that you can use it. And then the second one is that you need to have a client. It can be existing business partners, or they want to stay anonymous, then they can do that too. But just need to demonstrate that your solution actually can be implemented, right? Can be used. And then with that, we want to make sure that we can help our members to drive business as well. And just take the VAT as an example, right? Mm-hmm. We know that the Iotex has this tracking technology. Then the question is that how do we use that to bring in the values for the end users? And then it just happened at the same time when we submitted, we are in the middle of this pandemic era. So I would say, in a way, we actually use this testbed, and then that draw a lot of attention from the industry, because all of a sudden there are some medical supplies, right, and the medical equipment. People need to have a mechanism to use that. For example, the ventilators, right? So what if you want to ship from one end to the city to the other, and you need to figure out a way to make sure that the valuable asset can be delivered in the right location and the right time. So when the VAT kind of came to us, and then the proposal was accepted right away, and the solution was adopted or accepted by many companies. And actually right now, the one actually working very closely with this test drive is that the healthcare task group, right? Mm-hmm. They want to exploit this possibility in the medical industry. And then of course with that, we also learned that this technology can be also used very well to establish the data integrity.
Right.
So we are actually exploiting other possibilities. And then with that, we have a constantly presentation from the VAT team that we record the presentation so that people can see it. By the way, right now we have a lot of recordings in IIC, more than probably 40 of them already. And then that is actually one of the good things that we receive a lot of viewing on that. And then the next step is actually in the process that we will also publish a tech brief, right? A few pages right up talking about what this VAT is, so that we can hit the industry better, and then we can invite more people to participate. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really exciting because this valuable asset tracking test drive, right, is designed for healthcare networks, and it directly incorporates Pebble Tracker, right? So we're using Pebble Trackers to grab verifiably trustworthy information related to medical supply chain, guys. We're talking about COVID vaccines, we're talking about ventilators and other types of protective equipments, all of which, the past year has taught us, understanding where these assets are, who's in control of them, and who's taking care of them is critical, right? We saw such a strange vaccine kind of rollout across the US, a lot of wasted supplies. So this test drive for valuable asset tracking across medical networks is really trying to address these real world problems that are going to save lives, right? So it's something that we're very excited to work on within the IIC. So, Mitch, we have a big presentation coming up at the Q4 IIC member meeting. What else can people look forward to? How do these test drives evolve? And maybe talk a little bit about what the significance of having a blockchain-based test drive for the first time in the IIC led by Iotex.
I'm glad you bring this up, because the blockchain has been the technology that IIC has been set eyes on. And then we have many discussions. And then, of course, in the early days, people just thought that blockchain is Bitcoin. And we actually try to prove that no, actually blockchain can be used more than Bitcoin. And then right now in this data integrity, that's one thing that we've been eyeing on as well, because right now we understand that the business in the IoT is actually about the business of moving data. Then how do we ensure the data integrity? For example, I have a digital twin running somewhere. Then how do I know that there's in the process nothing has been tampered? So that's at least one area we're looking into that. And then of course we are also open to all sorts of ideas that what the blockchain can be used. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much potential here. Blockchain is just a horizontal technology that really stretches across all of these different test drives that we see, right? In the future, we really look forward to diving deeper with the IIC to see how blockchain and IoT could be applied to other industrial IoT related use cases, across supply chain, across transportation, across manufacturing. The need for trusted data and the need for the trusted authorization of that data is paramount, especially for enterprise, right? Given all the challenges this year with supply chain, right? Not just within the medical supply chain, but impacting our ability to deliver Christmas presents even this year, right?
Yeah.
How do you think blockchain and IoT are really going to address some of these issues? There's transparency, there's trust, but what really sticks out to you as the core benefit of bringing blockchain to these use cases?
The key point that we're looking into right now is that we want to make sure that when we try to create an environment, it's safe and it's secure for everybody. And we actually have this effort we try to build up this trustworthiness, right? The concept of trustworthiness has kind of evolved from just a conventional security, because right now we add other elements like security, right, safety, resilience, reliability, and then privacy into that part. So we form this supply chain trustworthiness. And in the process, in every single stage, we need to make sure that nothing has been changed, and also all the data are valid, and those are not being tampered with, right? So those are very important. So I would say, yeah, trust the blockchain can play an important role on that. It just depends on how we kind of incorporate that in our applications.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Makes sense. Well, Mitch, you gave us a lot of great detail on this IIC test drive. That Iotex has led, the first blockchain-based test drive within the industry IoT Consortium. We're really excited to start sharing some results, and we'll definitely share more as we chip away at this. But until then, how can people learn more about the IIC? And for those actually looking to get involved, how do you recommend they start, Mitch?
Well, the thing I recommend is that join our weekly meetings, right? Because that's the time that you get most of the information. A lot of people thought that I can just go to the website and download those documents. But the problem is that they forgot that a lot of information was exchanged. The final version of a document may not contain those. For example, you have pros and cons for one technology. The cons seldomly being documented. And that's the one that you need to try to avoid when you design a system, because those are the pitfalls that you may actually trapped, and then you never get it back, right? Because sometimes the things just happen like that. But when you get involved in the interactions, then you actually got a chance to interact with the experts, right? And then, well, people kind of call me Dr. Incredible. My fellow members, they graciously give me this kind of cosign for that, mainly because it seems like every time they have a question, I have a solution. Right. Every time they have a question, I have an answer, and then they have a problem, I have a solution. So through the years, we're kind of building up our credibility that way in the IIC. And I'm not alone. We have a group of experts actually working with everybody over there. And yeah, and also the other thing is that the face-to-face meeting. Yeah, our face-to-face meeting is coming in Q4, and it'll be in Long Beach, California. If you happen to be in that area, please check us out. And of course, you can go to our website. I hope you can help us post the website, Larry, after this meeting, right? Then go to our website, and then get in touch with me. And just remember that, hey, we're here. We have a slogan in our Innovation Town School. We're here to help you get rich, right? So hopefully that when you get rich, don't forget us.
Yeah, definitely building brand new companies from scratch, bringing them through the startup life cycle and helping them launch successfully, right? So for all those that want to get more involved in the industry IoT side of blockchain, you could check out the IIC at www.iiconsortium.org and reach out to Mitch. So, with that, Mitch, thank you so much for jumping on today and sharing more context. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you in the future.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch. Awesome, guys. So that's the IIC. Just to recap, right? Iotex has launched the very first blockchain-based test drive incorporating Pebble Tracker to use this device to make medical supply chains more trusted and more automated and more transparent overall. So a lot of materials already out there on Twitter and the internet. So definitely check out that use case. But want to move on to our next panelist and our next presenter, a very cool project that we've been chatting with for a while now, named Lunargistics. So I have the CEO, Diana, with us today. Hi, Diana. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. Just want to start very high level, maybe introduce a little bit about yourself and tell us exactly what Lunargistics is all about.
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Diana Bailey. I'm the CEO of Lunargistics. I have been in the crypto space for about 5 years now, which seems like an eternity in crypto. Survived 2 winters, so yay! Yes. I got my first start with a chain called Nexus, who was also doing some satellite stuff. So I got some good exposure there. First crypto winter hit, ended up going over to GoCoin. And then last year they ended up closing because of COVID. And then Lunargistics hired me on because I was already familiar with blockchain and with satellites and to help them get government contracts. So we're a little different in the sense that we're not necessarily a decentralized platform. Our platform is actually very restricted, but there are a lot of really fun things that we're trying to open up for people of anybody, anywhere, to be able to get on there to do so that they can take advantage of this new big space boom that's happening.
Absolutely. So a lot of people look up at space, right? Admire space, but don't really know what goes on in the lower orbit. A lot of satellites these days. I think for me, the big thing that sticks out is, Starlink. That's kind of, or Starlink.
Yeah.
That's kind of low orbiting and providing, global Wi-Fi eventually soon, right? But for those that are brand new to space, right? Let's start there. Yeah, what is it all about? What are the opportunities, and where does Lunargistics fit into all of that?
Yeah, so first we'll get into the platform a little bit. As you can see, we're in alpha testing. So we designed an entire business suite for the launch process. So if I'm a company and I want to launch a satellite into space, I could come onto the Lunargistics platform, buy a subscription, register, like go through and fill out my compliance paperwork. So we digitized and standardized everything, which is not, believe it or not, that's not even a thing in the space industry. Like the paperwork process. I mean, you're literally like printing it out, filling it out, faxing it in. I was like, who even uses faxes anymore? But so we digitized and standardized the entire compliance side. You can go through, fill out your paperwork. You could crowdfund a satellite. You can find rideshare opportunities. Launch providers can bid on the objects that you have for the payload to go into their launch rockets. So, I mean, it's pretty much everything you need from start to finish to get something into space. Now, how does that apply to the rest of the world? Well, a unique concept is emerging called fractional ownership of space assets. Now, fractional ownership itself is not a new concept. It's actually very old and is used mostly in real estate right now. So if people were to get together, buy a house, and then that house was a rental property, the income from that rental property would then allow like disbursement amongst the owners. Well, it's the same concept when it comes to fractional ownership of space assets. So I don't know if you guys heard, but Blue Origin and NASA are putting hotels in space.
Wow.
Right? I know. Yeah. Tourism to the next level. Would you go, Larry? Would you go stay in a hotel in space?
I've always wanted to stay at one of those underwater hotels, so I will definitely love to stay in a space hotel for sure. Yeah.
Be freaked out. It's something about not having air. I kind of like my air. Even like taking it away scares me. Well, so now they're going to have these hotels. So why does it have to be like billions and billions of dollars in order to get things up when we're compressing things to, nanosats and microsats, you can get them for 50 to 100,000. So maybe I can take 50% of that satellite and disperse the ownership to other people. And there's certain percentages based off of licensing. Maybe you give me $1,000, $5,000 to go into this. We're going to give you an NFT that's going to certificate your ownership into that asset. And then once the asset goes up and starts collecting the revenue from the contracts that we're able to assign to it, the owner would get paid out the dividends.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this really aligns with our thesis of what we call MobiFi, right? The ability for machines intelligent machines to ultimately be the largest user base of blockchain, even more than humans, right? In the future, machines are going to outnumber humans 10 to 1. And if they have an identity and they have pre-programmed goals, you can see how these unbiased hardware devices like satellites or rovers or et cetera can interact directly with the blockchain with no intermediaries, right? This is a beauty of blockchain and really the foundation for a lot of automation. You know, Diana, when you were talking, it really reminded me of like a lot of the supply chain movement that's going on as well, right? Which is all paper, all manual bill of ladings, and they're going through their digitization era. But really the opportunity that's very exciting is when we can start to connect real world devices to settle some of these financial contracts or these POs and invoices, right? So can you maybe talk to us a little bit about the bottlenecks that exist in this space industry? You know, so you said there's a lot of KYC, obviously, a lot of things like this. So what problem on the documentation and registration side is Lunargistics solving for?
Yeah, you know, it's just a very long, lengthy, time-consuming process. And we're hitting the fact where we need to get things in space faster than we can get them there, right? Obviously, we could do. They're talking about quadrupling the amount of satellites within the next 10 years that are going to go up. Well, you have to do all the testing. You have to manually write out all the paperwork. You have to submit it for approval. You have to wait for that to come back. You have to fix whatever's wrong. You have to go for your. You even have instances where, like Momentous this year, they made it all the way up to the launch process. And then the FAA came out and said, no, you have 50% more ownership in Russia. Like Russian people own your company, so we're not going to allow you to launch anything. So, it's a political thing too, right? So there's just a lot of like hiccups to get up there. Believe it or not, I talked to a guy in the Air Force and they never even got a chance to get a satellite up. Like how crazy is that the air, that's how crazy this system is. The Air Force couldn't get a satellite up. And so we want to fix that problem, right? Like, So space, maritime law applies to space. Nobody owns it, right? It's open to the entire world. We all agree that nobody can go up there and say the moon is mine. But when you collect things up there, you do own it, right? So if I collected the dust off the moon, I would own it. Or if I put the satellite, obviously I own the satellite, but I don't own the space around it. So for regular people to be able to come in and to participate and put their money in would not only expedite how quickly we can get things up, because it solves the problem of who's going to fund it. And using our streamlined platform with Lunargistics would help the paperwork bottleneck. So we're trying to come at it from both angles, right? Because obviously money is always an issue. So how can we get these projects funded to the best of our ability? And then how quickly can we get them up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such an interesting concept, right? Democratizing access to these space missions, right? Where all we see, we're seeing more and more of it these days with Blue Origin, and of course, Virgin Galactic and SpaceX really duking it out. But this has been a dream for a lot of people, right? Be able to, reach into the cosmos and be a fractional owner in some of the assets that are, orbiting around us. Space is the ultimate kind of like unknown, right? So there's so much opportunity out there, but what are some of the emerging opportunities? I know there's a lot of space manufacturing going on with Varda. There are a lot of communications satellites and Wi-Fi satellites, as we mentioned, a lot of astrophotography. What are kind of the revenue generating models that people are exploring in space these days?
Yeah. So just for an example, we talked about the microsats and nanosats. And by the way, if you guys go to lunargistics.com and click on the FOSA, the fractional ownership of space assets, there's a wonderful pamphlet that you can download that goes over optional revenue models to show you just kind of an idea. But so let's say you buy a nanosat, about 50,000, maybe it takes another 50,000 to get it launched. So you're up in space somewhere between 100 to 200,000, but the revenue that one satellite can bring in is between 3 to 5 million. So you're not even talking like, the numbers are just insane, absolutely insane. And so we want to get people in, and we want to get them, going on these types. And the best part is it's open to everybody. You don't even have to be an accredited investor, because it's property. You're buying property, right? So now we're like the little guys, the gap in the US has become quite significant between the poor and the rich. And I love the fact that blockchain and DeFi and all these opportunities will close that gap. Well, these are one of the big money makers. People should be able to invest in space real estate. Like the common person should be able to take advantage of this market. And now because of space exploration and space tourism, that we can monetize it, that becomes so much easier for people to do. So for a limited time, we're actually offering our subscription medallion for fractional ownership of space assets. And what that does is you pay the initial fee, and for the entire time of that medallion, we will never charge you a broker fee for negotiating your deals. Now, if I charge 10%, and I'm paying you out $100,000, obviously I'm making $10,000 off of that deal. And from the numbers I told you, that's not even an unrealistic expectation. So to pay $1,000 now to save $10,000 later, there's no better deal anywhere, right? Like, we just want to keep making everybody money. That's what Lunargistics wants to be known for, space and making everybody money. Like that last guy said, I like his philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's so interesting. It says it right here on your website, right? The new space economy, much like an Airbnb rental property, a person can buy a piece of a space object and collect a portion of the revenue that the space object generates. It's such an interesting concept, and so Web3, right? It's about collective ownership, collective funding, collective rewards, right? So, tell us a little bit more about that NFT. You guys are running that NFT sale right now. For people that want to get in touch with you and learn more about how they can get involved with Lunargistics, share a little bit about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said before, our entire platform isn't necessarily open to everybody. So our subscription NFTs are API keys. So as you buy this NFT, it allows you to access the platform based off of your level. And obviously we have launch providers, payload providers, and investors. So you buy this medallion, and then next year when you go to log in, when we get out of beta, you will be able to be routed to the possible deals. So you put in how much money you're willing to invest. We will partner you with deals. When you find the deal you like, we will negotiate the contract, and then you will be granted your NFT. That is the contract verifying that deal. Once your object goes into space, we're going to handle all the paperwork. We'll handle all the payouts, and we're just going to make sure everybody gets their money as they need to. So we've got a couple companies that we're working with to get things up, and we also have plans to launch our own satellites. And by the way, satellites are definitely the number one moneymaker, but you could do a rocket too. You could crowdfund a rocket and then get paid the dividends off a space launch. I mean, how insane would that be if you were like, hey, I got paid from SpaceX today.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
exactly.
I got my SpaceX paycheck. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of these autonomous machines, including satellites and rovers and all the space assets, these can be thought of as intelligent machines, right? That are going to create cash flows by themselves, right? Yep. Autonomously create cash flows, yep. Divide them up between the folks that kind of financed it and funded it. It's almost like a fixed income asset, right? Where the principal itself may depreciate a little bit, but it's obviously, grabbing photography, providing connectivity, and just serving the new space ecosystem, right?
Yeah, so, you have what 5G's coming out. I mean, you have which like maps and Waze, and you know what I mean. Like there's just, I mean, we rely on everything now. The internet is our whole world. I mean, my kids lost the internet for 2 days this week, and I thought they were gonna like die, and they just didn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah,
so we've become so reliant on it. Imagine though, when we get to full capacity, and it really is free internet for everybody, and the internet's just only one revenue of model. All these companies that rely on space assets, they don't all launch their own things. They rent out what's up there, right? And so that's where the opportunity is, to get it up and then rent it out.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe your kids will even fund the first crowdfunded moon landing one day, So for people that want to get in touch with you, Diana, and get in touch with the Lunargistics team, obviously they can go to lunargistics.com, but what are the more direct channels that they can get in contact with you?
Well, I think Lunargistics is the best one right now. We're debating on setting up a Telegram for support and things like that. But again, our system's a really lockdown system. So, and we have to be very cautious of fraud. So we're just trying to explore to make sure the right channels we do don't open us up to unnecessary things that we would have to fight off for the platform. So, but if you ever need anything, I get the majority of the emails that go into the website anyways. Please feel free to jump in, subscribe. Let us keep you updated on the things that are coming. Go buy a medallion because they're limited edition, and by the way, you can resell it. So once you buy your medallion, even if you never use it, you can sell it on the open market to somebody else for whatever you want. So I think that's a huge opportunity as well. Or you make your money back and you sell it after the fact, which hopefully you make so much money you don't want to sell it, but if you have to, the opportunity is there. And so just go to the website, buy a medallion, write us if you need us. And again, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn. We're on all the social media platforms, and we're here to help you. So if you reach out, we'll make sure we answer.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for the context. You really opened up our imagination on this Friday, Diana. Everyone go check out Lunargistics and, support this great Iotex ecosystem project.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Any final words for the community, Diana?
Yeah, we love Iotex. I think when it comes to the Internet of Things, you can't find a better technology out there. So I just want to say we love the community. Everybody's been extremely welcoming, and we're happy to be operating on this chain.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Diana. We'll catch you soon. And please provide more updates to the community. And we're looking forward to what you really accomplish next.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you so much, Larry.
Thanks, Diana. Awesome, guys. So that was Lunargistics, a very unique use case of blockchain, right? It really shows the extensibility of where blockchain and IoT can fit, right? 50 billion plus devices out there, ranging from small devices like this Pebble tracker to satellites to everything in between, right? So the applicability of what we're building here with MobiFi is just really expanding out of this world, literally, right? So another really, really big sector that MobiFi is going to target is the mobility and the automotive space, right? And we're really excited to welcome a new Iotex partner named Mobify, and we have their CEO Udi here today. Hey, how's it going, Udi?
Hey, Larry.
Awesome to have you here. Yeah. So Mobify is tackling the mobility as a service space, right? We've chatted several times already, and you have a really unique IoT background as well. So maybe you can start by just introducing yourself your background and then share us a little bit about what Mobify is all about.
Sure. So my name is Rudy. I'm based in the Netherlands. Not sure if we are the only new startups today, but
Hey, Yudi, your mic is a little silent. Maybe step a little closer to it.
how about now?
It's a little better. Yeah.
A little better. So
Let me see if I can help you with the mic settings.
It should be better, right? Yeah, it's much closer.
Okay. Yeah, give that a shot.
Yeah, how's that?
A little better.
All right, good. So my name is Rudy. I'm based out of the Netherlands. So I'm not sure if we are a new startup today or not. So I do have a very interesting background about IoT. However, we didn't start with IoT. So I have an information and computer science background.
Yudi, it's still a little hard to hear you, man. Sorry. I'm not sure. Maybe try to switch a mic. I'm not sure if you're on your computer audio or something like that. But in the meantime, we're going to check out your awesome website.
In a second.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. So Mobify, right? As we address some of those mic issues, they're really trying to build an ecosystem where, you know, the how you travel can indicate the types of rewards you can earn, right? So they want you to travel smart and use Mobify as your kind of application to earn while you travel, right? So whether it's on vehicles, on bicycles, planes, public transport, you want to bring one app that allows you to track your travels and earn from your travels as well, right? This whole kind of play to earn phenomenon where people are doing things in the digital world to earn digital assets has exploded already with things like Axie and even Star Crazy on Iotex, right? This play to earn phenomenon. But what if we could do things in the real world to earn digital assets and digital reputation, right? So
how about now, Larry?
Yeah, this is much better. Here, I'm gonna lower
just
your
put on
mic.
my headset.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, let's start again.
Right.
You know, share a little bit about your background. No, you're all good. You're all good. Share a little bit about your background in IoT and how you got to start Mobify.
Yes, of course. So, so basically, my name is Rudy. I'm based in the Netherlands. I have an information and computer science background, and I started my work in Shell as a data scientist. So I have a couple of rotations as a graduate hire. And then I moved to the emerging tech space. I worked directly with the IT CTO of Shell here, and I was leading the IoT team in the emerging tech team, right? So basically, we have AI, robotic, blockchain, all different cool stuff. So IoT is one of them. So basically, we deployed a global monitoring system for the refinery and you know, a lot of other big projects. So that's how I get into IoT. And I realized during my implementation of the projects for Shell, I realized a lot of potential issue in the security space for IoT devices, especially if you build it on the cloud, right? So that's actually my experience in IoT. I've been working there for, I think, more than 1.5 years, 2 years in the IoT space, leading a lot of projects. So when you reached out to me months back, I was very excited because Iotex is one of the projects I've been following on for a long time. So the reason that we started Mobify is really because at end of 2019, we won the first place in the mobility hackathon in the Netherlands. And that's all originated from an idea. How can we actually reshape the behavior of drivers, right? So towards a more sustainable travel, way in the city and outside the city. So that's the main reason, or even our vision, I would say, to reduce those non-eco-friendly travel behavior in Europe and globally, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, Europe is already such a sustainable place compared to the US, I think. You know, a lot of bikers, a lot of people that walk, take public transportation. But share a little bit more about what these damaging travel patterns are, right? Are we talking about not carpooling? Are we talking about, taking non-toll roads, or, explain kind of the problem a little bit more with current transportation?
Yeah, so maybe I can share some figures that not many people are aware of. Actually, you mentioned, Larry, that a lot of people are taking public transport, etc., in Europe, right? So that's your feeling, because in Europe we have really great infrastructure for public transport, especially in West Europe, like Netherlands, Germany, etc. But actually, more than 50% of the people in the Netherlands, they're traveling by cars. They actually own cars and travel by car. That's more than 8 million of people here. And only 10% of them are using public transport.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's crazy, right? I never thought about that before. So if a lot of companies today, like mobility as a service, right, on the market, a lot of startups, they build one app like integrated with everything and hope people will use it and make it more sustainable. They are targeting for the 10%. And those 10% is like, hey, I'm already very eco-friendly. What I'm supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not changing anything. That's why we are actually creating a driver-focused mobility as a service solution. We focus on the major group, and these group are actually producing all the CO2 emissions
Mm-hmm.
driving their cars, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're driving electric or gasoline cars, because even electric cars, it will produce a lot of CO2s as generating electricity will actually burning a lot of gases and coals, etc.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's the damage which is happening today. If we don't do anything, then I mean, if you have some sense of the global warming, right? By 2050, there will be a big issue of the whole environment and for human beings.
That's exactly what I was going to get to next. Mobify has a big focus on the impact to the environment, right? The global warming around the world, a lot of that is contributed by the vehicles and the fossil fuels that we use today, right? So everyone's becoming more conscious, thinking about, electric vehicles and how to conserve the environment, right? So this is exactly the beauty of blockchain, right? It's a combination of technology and also incentives, right? With these built-in incentives, we can encourage people to take more public transportation, not just encouraging them to, but purely incentivizing through open economics, right? Maybe share a little bit about your vision about how you want to apply that practice to this transportation space.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a very, very difficult thing to change people's behavior, right? So, and the mobility is actually irrational. I just want to take my car from A to B. I never consider any alternatives because cars are actually cheaper than taking public transport in Netherlands, at least, right? So we need to sort of change their behavior without them even noticing it, right? So you have to do it, basically embed your incentive in their day-to-day activities for using their cars, right? So you can't force them like, hey, please take the train. That doesn't work, right? So the way that we're going to approach them is we're going to provide them much cheaper, for example, parking service for the car owners, right? They will be using our service to park their cars somewhere that we promoted, which let's say is an indoor parking instead of on-street parking, right? The reason is you don't want all the cars go into the city center. You want to remove them, give space back to the city, right? If they do that, they will get incentives, rewards. It can be MoFi, can be all the interest that we generate from their the staking yields, right? So it can be anything. But basically, what they get is a lot of extra benefits by parking their car indoor instead of on street, using alternative mobility like scooter, car sharing instead of just driving their car around all the time. So we give them opportunity to choose or at least try out alternative mobilities instead of today they just stuck with their car.
Yeah, exactly. I think about this use case a lot for like scooters, right? Because here in San Francisco, these scooters are left on every single corner. Starting to fix this problem, but still a lot of people leave them in the middle of the street on the corners. So I've always had the idea about, using GPS trackers to not only make sure people are returning it to specific locations that are like drop zones, but encouraging people to drop their scooters in areas where there's less scooters available, right? So it's kind of balancing the inventory across multiple places. I think some of these stats up here are really, really telling as well, right? 154 hours lost in traffic every year in 20 of the most congested cities, 1.3 million lives lost due to traffic crashes. This one can't be understated, right? It's insane. 66% of the world's population in cities by 2050, going to the congestion use case, the congestion issue you mentioned, and 90% of the world's urban population that fail to meet air quality standards. So this is exactly what we're trying to incentivize and solve with urban mobility, right? Can you tell us about kind of like the step-by-step process of how this is going to all play out?
Exactly. And actually talking about Iotex, the Pebble tracker, I think it's very exciting. The reason is we reward people based on what they do, right? So currently we can only track that by their transactions. For example, they park indoor, they use scooters, right? Based on transaction, we reward them. But there's so many things that we don't know what they are doing, especially the drivers, because there are a lot of behavior will cause a big impact to the environment. For example, do you hit your brake hard, or are you a very smooth driver in the city, or you kind of like raising your car all the time, hit the pedal hard, right? So that kind of thing you cannot really track, right? And also we can track if people are cycling or if they are just a passenger sitting in someone else's car. With a device like Pebble Tracker, then we can actually help user to monetize more of their data and in a more secure way. Because if you are talking about tracking people and using that data in Europe with the strict GDPR stuff, it's crazy. They're gonna put you on the spot. So with the technology of blockchain from Iotex, so we will be able to let people to monetize their data even more to another level. To help them earn more, right? Travel and earn much more with Mobify and Iotex. So I think that's very interesting thing that we want to explore and start to build on that.
Yeah, no, we're really excited too. The Pebble tracker, of course, is going to provide a lot of interesting asset tracking information, GPS, climate, motion, vibration, light, paired with also, you guys have a mobile app plan, right? Where you can use kind of the GPS from your mobile device and earn based on how you travel, right? So it's a universally accessible device, maybe different sets of rewards for these two types of devices. But even further into the future, let's talk about like 5-10 years where a lot of these, maybe Pebble Tracker is now an OEM part in a lot of these vehicles, right? Where these cars themselves are going to be mining machines, right? Driving computers, literally, with so much compute memory and storage. Just look at Tesla, right? As the world's cars fleet looks more and more like Tesla, more digital, there's so many opportunities to use things as like cars as full nodes, or like, we were talking about like cars mining Bitcoin, or like cars mining Iotex and things like this. But this is starting to become more and more of a reality. Maybe share a little bit about like the crazier side of what mobility as a service is going to look like in the future.
Yeah, so a lot of people are talking about Tesla, autonomous cars, etc. I actually want to focus a little bit on the other angle, which is I think it's more relevant to the crypto or the blockchain community. So on one side, you want to create extremely cheap and good service in the mobility side, right? Doesn't matter what it is, parking or scooter, whatever it is. But on the other side, you also want to make your business viable, right? So basically, how do you actually make money and make the whole flow sustainable? That's where the NFT and also the gamification part we're gonna put into our app that will completely change the game today. Because we talked to BCG, and according to their reports, that's the missing part in the entire mobility as a service industry, the financial model and the incentives. So I can give you an example. It can be really huge in the future for the NFT in our space, basically. So within our gamification design, people will earn MoFi based on basically how they do and where they're located. Because for different country, we will deposit different MoFi pool to incentivize people. When they reach to a certain level, they will receive badges, right? So it could be different levels and different badges. For example, 10% of parking discount, it's a badge, right? So an NFT badge. But for people living or people goes to Amsterdam more often than people goes to, let's say, The Hague, another small city in the Netherlands. The parking cost is completely different. In Amsterdam, it's €7 per hour, okay, on the street. In The Hague, probably 2-3 euros, right? So this 10% discount, this badge is gonna be very beneficial for the guys go to Amsterdam. But say I'm a guy in The Hague and I earn the badge, and I actually don't drive much. So I can sell this badge to the guy in Amsterdam as an NFT, right? So we
Right.
basically enable trading, and that will
Mhm.
make the whole market actually in the mobility service industry, you know, more livable, like yeah, people,
Right.
because you need traffic, everything. And that's also
Yeah.
make the business model viable.
No, absolutely. I think that's super interesting to think about the borderlessness of what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
The ability to, collect tokens based on the places if you've traveled or the routes that you've taken, and using that to collect like almost like a travel bank, right? Which you can sell to others, which you can probably cash in for parking fees, toll payments, and things like this from a very borderless capacity, right? Like my toll payments in San Francisco is very, very different to the toll payments, because these are different centralized corporations or different government entities that are collecting this, right? But if there's one standardized way to pay for travel and earn from travel in the future, this is kind of the target market you're addressing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I mean, this is such a huge space across like mobility. We talk a lot about automotive and drive to earn, but as scooters and bicycles and other forms of transportation are really booming, there's so much possibility here. So tell us a little bit more about Mobify's roadmap and also how people can learn more about Mobify.
Yeah, sure. I think because I really love the project today. The satellites. I mean, it's amazing. I'm also a satellite fan.
Yeah.
I actually worked with a Amsterdam-based satellite company before. I think they are already live somewhere in the desert to track the devices,
Awesome.
the monitoring. But anyway, so we actually focus a bit more on the things that are close to our lives, right? So mobility, like every day. So we will be releasing our app very soon in Q4, and people can actually start to use the app to park their car and earn the rewards like right away. You don't need to wait for like years of the project to complete the whole thing. It's gonna happen right at their hand. Download the app and they can use it already. So I think that's the goal for us to make it available for the general public. So in the first release, we don't have this complicated DeFi or whatever crypto stuff. People don't even need to know what is crypto to use it. What they're gonna be benefiting is the rewards and discount that we're gonna provide in the app, and the easiness of park their car basically using their mobile phone, and the cheapest price for all the parking locations in the Netherlands. So that's the biggest thing in this year's roadmap. And the second thing I think that I want to mention is we will be integrating with other blockchains like Iotex and layer 2 solutions like Polygon. We actually already integrated with Polygon, but maybe need to migrate, move the MobiFi token as well to Polygon, so that for users using our apps, which basically you're not going to deposit a few thousand or tens of thousands into our app, right? So it's a mobility app. So it's going to be maybe 20 euro, 50 euro. So we using Polygon or this layer 2 or Iotex, we can save a lot of fees for our users. So that's the two major targets for our roadmap this year. And next year and on, we will be more focusing on integrating with more DeFi services. So in the end, right, the reason we want to work with Iotex is also the same. We want to bring more value to monetize what people have with us, with the app, with the data. So integrating with more DeFi services, and to enhance our cross-chain solution, because once we integrate with you guys or maybe with other blockchain, then we will be open to a much wider ecosystem for our user, or even people not using us yet. I mean, in other countries we're not present yet, but they can start to join and leverage in the DeFi part to earn actually extra interest in their daily life.
Yeah, it's true machine at its finest, right? And it also intersects with a lot of ongoing initiatives we have here at Iotex, specifically things around the Mobi. You guys share the same prefix as the Mobi Alliance, but they just published their trusted trip standard, which Iotex is a core contributor to, and I'm sure the work you guys are doing is going to fit in very nicely into that as well. So Udi, thank you so much. I think we could talk for days about this mobility as a service thing, but we'll definitely have you on for more future sessions. Definitely, everyone go follow Mobify, mobify.io, and you guys have your Telegram and your Discord channels and such as well, right? Any final words for the community today, Udi?
Final words will be, we actually going to be in Lisbon in Portugal next week, attending the biggest startup summit. So it's called Web Summit. So if you happen to be there, just hit us in our booth and have a cup of coffee. So
yeah. You hear it directly from Udi. You know, those that are out in Lisbon, I have a lot of FOMO. I wish I could join as well, but I hope you guys can interact in person. So yeah, thank you so much, Udi, and we'll look forward to all the great things that Mobify does with Iotex and in the cross-chain community. Have a good day, man.
Great. You too. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Awesome. So that was Mobify, guys. Mobify is, you know, really tackling this mobility as a service space, right? Which I think is one of the most ripe industries that's going to be disrupted by what's going on in blockchain and IoT, right? The ability to be incentivized for the way that you travel, both from an economic perspective, incentivizing people to use toll roads and you know, travel certain routes, but also reducing the environmental impact of the way that we move around the world, right? From the planes that we take to the cars that we drive, to the scooters that we use, are the alternative modes of transportation that we really seek, right? It's a combination of technology and combination of economics as well, right? And another really important pillar in this is the trustworthiness of all the players in the ecosystem, right? A lot of the times we're very familiar with the concept of credit scores in the traditional sense. You know, credit scoring is going to determine how much money we can borrow from a bank or what kind of counterparties are going to trust us in the real world, right? So this next project that we're really excited to bring on, the last one of our ecosystem spotlight today, is named NAOS Finance. And NAOS Finance is really bringing the real world credit scoring, you know, a lot of different real world data to establish credit scores for small to medium businesses and businesses of all sizes alike. So with that, I want to welcome Kevin from NAOS Finance. How you doing today, Kevin?
Hey, it's good. So, Larry, thanks for inviting. It's great to be here.
Of course. You know, credit scores are such an important piece of traditional life, right? And in the decentralized world, being able to trust the anon account or the anonymous business or the pseudonymous business you're dealing with is of paramount importance, right? So talk us through a little bit about your background and what NAOS Finance does exactly.
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually pretty new to crypto. I started my career as a traditional finance. So started my in New York as investment banker, and move on to private equity and venture capital investments. Spent a few years both at Alibaba Group and Fosun, and also at Walt Disney Company in the same capacity. Not a stranger to startups though. Founded 3 different startups in fintech, e-commerce, in Southeast Asia, and we sold those company to Alibaba. So so now I think the team really brought you know, it brings a lot of experiences to DeFi in a way that you know, we actually bring the real world use cases, right? So when you look at crypto lending like Ovid or Compound, it's still strictly crypto native assets, right? So I think the business model NAOS is tackling right now is actually a century old problem, right? So it's traditional banking, right? SME looking for a loan, whether through banking or financial institutions or through DeFi, it's the same model. So I think the story is extremely compelling in a way that people immediately gets what we're trying to do. But there's a lot of more innovation that will come with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dive through some of those innovations, right? Like with traditional credit scores, with traditional reputation, right? Like reputation is such a legacy kind of concept, but when we bring it into the decentralized world, there's a lot of different considerations to take into account, right? Purely because, you know, how do you associate real world data off-chain with some identity on-chain and make sure that connection is verifiable, right? Otherwise, it's impossible to prove your reputation to others. Maybe share a little bit about your thought process and what NAOS is doing to innovate on that concept.
Right. I think for blockchain, credit is still we're still years away from credit, to be honest, right? When you look at DeFi lending right now, we're looking at 200 to 400 or even higher collateralization ratios, right? But if you think about fintech company in the traditional world, right? So the type of problem that they're solving right now is that the banks are only able to servicing the top 10 or 20% of the population in the pyramid. This is the problem, especially true in emerging markets, right? So take Indonesia, for example. Only 30% of the population has access to banking facilities or banking services, right? Credit penetration is less than 3%. That means less than 3% of people have credit card, right? So I think you see the emerging trend of fintech company coming in to servicing that, missing, unbankable, like 80% of the population, right? And if you rewind a couple years back, even just look at Alipay, right? Alibaba Group in China. People completely transformed. China has completely transformed into a cashless society. Why? Because of alternative credit, right? So there was a lack of infrastructure in those countries, meaning that banking system is not well established, right? There's no centralized credit bureau for banks to underwrite loans, right? So what company does, or what innovation really comes, is that, in addition to looking at financial data, right, we can look at your behavioral data. So for example, it's just a really stupid example, but let's just say if you're friend with Warren Buffett, right, I can basically assume that you guys are comparable in the same class, right? If I know your locations, right, let's just say if I have the Uber data, right, where you go from home to work, I can triangulate the real estate value where you live, and then also let's just say if you work in the financial district, right? So I actually have a sense of basically your monthly income to gauge that information, right? Based on your shopping record on Amazon or whatnot, right? Your basket size, right? So I think innovation really comes in the way that we can triangulate without actually getting an answer, a direct answer, such as financial data, right? So in DeFi, I think we're still far away from that because the infrastructure is not there yet, right? Company are servicing customers right now, but we're not accumulating data. But I think from IoTX area is extremely interesting, because what the type of data you guys are generating are exactly the one that we find critical, right? And that's often overlooked by a lot of different projects.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking about the traditional credit scoring kind of agencies in the States, right? Like Equifax. It's kind of like the payment rails, right? There's Amex, MasterCard, Visa, Discover, and they own those 4 payment rails. In the States, I think there's like 3 predominant credit scoring agencies, and they all have their own proprietary methodologies that are very, very black box, right? So what NAOS is providing is kind of the ability to create methodologies that are more purpose driven, right? If you're trying to figure out the lending profile of a renewable energy provider, right? The real world data from their windmills and their ability to deliver electricity should be directly related to how much they can lend and borrow in credit markets as well, right? So what type of real world data? We talked about, ride hailing data. We talked about, geographic data. There's also topological data. What type of real world data do you think is going to be impactful for assessing risk and assessing lending, borrowing capacity in the future?
Right. So it's really interesting the way we look at things, right? There's no data that's bad data, right? So the way data really works for us is basically have a more comprehensive sensitive statistic data, right? Or like a model, right? So essentially what we're doing is we're looking for correlations, right? And sometimes the correlation does not give you a very direct of definition. So for example, when we were running the fintech company, we realized that people who purchasing 2 cups of coffee per day generally have a better credit score for whatever reasons, right? There could or could not be any direct correlation with that. But we actually went ahead to adjust our model, right? We're putting more weight on coffee drinkers, right? And assign them with a credit score. And we observe the repayment, the record, right? So the way we think about data is that, we take every data, right? And then we can run our analytics, and we can see if there's any correlation for non-financial versus financial data. Because I think in the realm of big data, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? And then you kind of have to try and look for that hidden gems.
Yeah, absolutely. So once we get these credit scores, right? Once we have a assessment of the repayment capacity of this lender or this borrower, right? How do we use this within DeFi, right? We're so used to the pseudonymous nature of DeFi, where we go to trusted third-party websites like DAppRadar or RugDoc to assess the viability of these farms, right? But from a counterparty perspective, it's a little trickier, right? There's many models about how you trust someone else, right? If I trust someone that trusts someone, then by transitive property, that means I trust that person as well, right? But how do you think about this from the DeFi capacity? How is it used in the blockchain world?
I think it's a little oxymoron, right? Because if trust is if the trust is established, right, transparency is established, why are we going with the 400% collateralization ratios, right? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? So I think for DeFi to really take off, we have to move towards a credit-based lending model, right? A credit-based lending model basically means no collaterals, right? And how do I trust you? Even with the help of smart contract is just a tool, right?
Yeah.
How do we establish that mindset, right? And how do people evaluate that risk? So I think we are really, really early on with DeFi, right? And there are a couple of different protocols that are making attempts on, doing credit-based lending, right? Or even consumer lendings, right?
Yeah.
And, we're just happy to have, partners on board, tackling with the same problem, right?
Yeah.
So the way we're thinking about this is that, how do we transform behaviors like into a meaningful definition of that person instead of having to go through the identity check and whatnot, right? Yeah.
And what's really interesting is you guys have a big focus on the smaller players too, right? I'm sure this is going to eventually evolve into catering to some of the larger enterprises, but you use this term MSME, right? Micro, small, and medium enterprises. Maybe share some of the challenges about, from the little guys, right? Like, I think having so much data about these public companies is easy to provide, and they have public 10K statements. They have, government filings. You can glean a lot of the trustworthiness and the creditworthiness of these institutions. But for smaller startups, they probably suffer through this problem tenfold, right? Maybe explain that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, so that really stems from my personal experience, right? When we're running, especially with the new economy, right? So I think in emerging market, banks are not used to new technology or new type of companies, right? They're more used to dealing with conglomerates, right? Like in the real estate businesses or in manufacturing business where they have equipments or they have hard assets, right?
Yeah.
Come on, Internet 2.0, right? I mean, we're not even talking about 3.0 anymore, right? We're talking about asset-light type of companies, right? Startups, right? There's no way for them to get, the type of bank facility just because they don't have the assets to approve, right? And when they are, when entering like crypto space, right? Like, banks don't understand it, right?
Right.
Let alone opening a bank account, right? So I think the problem that we're seeing in emerging markets is that it's a death spiral, right? I mean, you don't have the opportunity to get that first facility. You don't get to prove yourself,
right?
And you don't have that record. Therefore, you're not going to get it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of company, instead of turning to bank, they turn to venture capitals, right? But in most of the countries, those are not readily available. But I think the same problem persists, not even just with medium, small companies, but for larger company as well, right?
Yeah.
We're actually working with one of the Fortune 500 company, and they're facing problem whereby their operation is predominantly in the US, right? They have no problem getting bank facilities, but when they are entering into their international space, right, the local banks require them to have local transaction histories, right, which they don't, right? So for them, international expansion is going to be a problem, right? So obviously, sure, they can raise more capital from the States, but when you're talking about just quick international expansion, global accepted way of looking at credit, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. And that's for a Fortune 500 company, right? So, building transaction and credit history and all these different jurisdictions and all these application processes, having something standardized that's universally recognizable makes a lot of sense, right? So, no, thanks for providing all that context on like the before and after of what NAOS Finance is trying to do, right? Maybe share a little bit about where you guys are at right now, what your roadmap looks like, going into the future.
Yeah. So NAOS protocol is actually interesting in a way that we are a liquidity protocol plus a lending protocol plus insurance protocol, right? So think about us as a MakerDAO plus Aave plus Nexus Mutual, right?
Yeah.
So essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to emulate the entire banking process just on NAOS, right? So on the borrower side, you can submit documentation requirements just through the website, same way that you submit to the bank, right? We collect relatively similar information, right? Once the application is being approved, we have third-party validator plus our own team to do the validation, due diligence. Once this is approved, the asset or the collateral will be tokenized and then deposit into our vault, right? And then we'll give you the equivalent amount of the money you borrow. The whole design for borrowers is that they will never have to touch crypto. So when they borrow fiat, they are getting fiat, they're repaying fiat, right? So the whole process for them requires no crypto knowledge, right? So we have just launched our testnet for the lending protocol. Our liquidity protocol is already live. We're expecting to launch mainnet in about a month of time.
Awesome. Final stretch, very exciting. One of the most stressful but also rewarding periods. So we're really looking forward to what NAOS brings to the entire blockchain ecosystem, and really looking forward to seeing how Iotex real world data and the NAOS protocol can fuse together to add more trust to this very, very large, almost behind the scenes industry, right? But so top of mind for all the businesses out there that know the importance of maintaining solid financials and balance sheet, right? So any final words for the community? How can people learn more about NAOS, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to get the community to try us out. We're running a test net right now, so we do have a bounty program for people to see what NAOS is all about, and let us know if you have any feedback. We're in the process of collecting feedback, updating them constantly. We're looking forward to integrate with Iotex mainnet soon. Hopefully, we'll be able to come up with a more interesting credit scoring method than FICO and Experian.
For sure. Awesome, man. Well, looking forward to it. I think there's so much potential in this space. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your Friday to share a little bit more about NAOS Finance. So everyone go check out NAOS, join their groups and reach out to Kevin and the team if you have any other further questions. But really appreciate the time, Kevin. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks. Awesome, guys. So, that's our ecosystem spotlight for October 29th, end of October. Just looking back on the past month, it's been such a sprint. So many different projects onboarding to the Iotex network. And, it's just really amazing. We're not only focusing on onboarding projects these days, but we're also really focused on how do we make them successful, right? We're bringing on a lot of new launch pads, a lot of new yield farms to lock in liquidity, a lot of tools for people to bootstrap their communities, run governance votes. So all the puzzle pieces are really coming together, right? For those that haven't really checked out the growing Iotex ecosystem yet, definitely check out our ecosystem page. There's so many new projects popping up everywhere, every single day, right? So it's just something that we're very excited to see. And yeah, we're going to do another ecosystem spotlight. The next one is on November 12th, and we're going to have some pretty awesome projects on there. And as always, thank you guys so much for supporting Iotex. I think, with Pebble Tracker coming soon, and with a really large series of announcements that we've been planning for a while related to MachineFi also coming soon, it's time for a new era of Iotex. And not only are we improving the platform on which these applications are going to run on, but we're also sourcing some of the best partners out there in the crypto space to come build the future on Iotex. So if that fits your description, whether you're an individual developer, a team on another network that wants to port over to Iotex, or you're just an enthusiast that wants to get involved with some of the day-to-day activities, really recommend you check out Iotex. And even our ambassador program is now open, right? I just want to highlight this for a quick second before we drop off. We've just opened up the applications for our ambassador program 2.0, and we've gotten over 1,000 applications so far. So it's taking us a while to comb through and filter out a little bit, but the goal is not to select people and remove people from this list, but really to compartmentalize people into groups where they can start to work together from like a more of a community-driven mindset, right? Really just decentralizing the operations around the ambassador program and letting you be super close to the action alongside the Iotex team working on some of the most important initiatives in the Iotex network, right? So really encourage everyone to go apply for our ambassador program 2.0, whether you're a content creator, a moderator, a governance manager, or a developer in residence. There's so many different ways to contribute to the Iotex network. And this is just the structure that we want to see eventually operate as a DAO, right? So get in on the Iotex community DAO on the ground floor, and that's going to cement your position going forward. So, with that, back to work. Really appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll do more of these ecosystem spotlights. Hope everyone learned a little bit about, the Industry IoT Consortium. Thank you to Dr. Mitch Tseng for joining us about Lunargistics. Thank you, Diana, about Mobify. Thank you, Yudi. And finally, about NAOS Finance. Thank you, Kevin, for joining our live stream today. So with that, I'm going to leave you with some ending Iotex video clips, and we will see you guys next time. Hope you guys have a good weekend. See you later.
Our world is powered by billions of smart devices that generate an incredible amount of data and value. This phenomenon is called the Internet of Things, or IoT. From smart homes and wearables to connected vehicles and renewable energy, the IoT is impacting everyone and everything. But today, the multi-trillion-dollar IoT industry is owned by centralized corporations that control our devices, mine our data, and earn huge profits with no value returned to users. Iotex is here to change the status quo and build a future that empowers users, not corporations. We envision a world where everyday people can own and control their devices, as well as the data and value they generate. A vision we call the Internet of Trusted Things. By connecting the physical and digital worlds, Iotex allows us to secure the data from billions of smart devices and extract value from it with next-gen DApps. Join Iotex as we democratize access to the new machine economy and return power to the people. Iotex is more than just a blockchain. It's a full-stack platform that enables trusted data from trusted devices for use in trusted applications. The Iotex Platform combines innovations in blockchain, identity, oracles, and hardware to make real-world data available to blockchain DApps for the first time. Secure hardware captures and signs real-world data that anyone can verify and trust. Real-world data oracles bring this verifiable data to the blockchain in a trusted manner. Decentralized identity enables humans and devices to own their data as digital assets. And blockchain enables users to earn and trade digital assets across the ecosystem of Iotex DApps. The Iotex blockchain is lightning fast and EVM compatible, allowing builders to port over Solidity-based DApps and tokens in minutes and enjoy ultra-low fees and 5-second block times with instant finality. Governed by a global network of delegates, Iotex is the trusted and decentralized foundation to power your next big idea. IoTX is the native token of the Iotex network. Being an IoTX token holder grants you voting power and allows you to participate in network governance. Iotex is a utility token that can be spent and staked to access various applications and services in the Iotex network. Delegates stake Iotex to participate in network consensus and earn Iotex rewards. Developers utilize Iotex to power their DApps, create new tokens, and fuel crypto economics. Users spend Iotex to access DApps, register devices, and interact with the network, and can also earn token rewards and voting power by staking Iotex. The total supply of Iotex is deflationary thanks to our burn drop tokenomics, where Iotex is burned and airdropped to users after every new device is registered to the Iotex network. As the number of DApps, devices, and tokens on Iotex grows, the value and demand for Iotex will increase, providing recurring incentives for token holders to grow and maintain the network. The Iotex Network is home to an ecosystem of dApps, tokens, and services that connect the physical and digital worlds. By bringing real-world data to blockchain, Iotex enables an entirely new category of use cases where users can earn digital assets based on their real-world data and actions. All types of machines can be registered to Iotex and deliver facts about the real world to the blockchain, a concept we call proof of anything. From proof of activity to fuel decentralized healthcare, to proof of safety to settle insurance contracts, to proof of green energy to fuel renewable energy marketplaces. Real-world data will change everything for blockchain and spark a new era of innovation on Iotex. With Iotex, we can unlock liquidity for real-world assets and create brand new digital assets that will flow freely across our network of on-chain applications, information markets, and mining farms. And thanks to cross-chain bridges to Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and other top blockchains, our digital assets will interoperate with the blockchain universe for endless possibilities. Join our global community of pioneers and help shape the future decentralized economy. Welcome to Iotex.